Alright guys, happy Sunday and welcome back to the Miles and Miles of the Robs fans. I'm your host, Robbie Miles, and this is Miles of Horror. I got a great show for you guys today, but first, okay, I have to give a big shout out to all of you. Thank you so much for hanging out, man, coming on the channel, liking my videos, subscribing to my channel. I think my Blair Witch video has like almost 500 views at this point. Never would have expected that. So thank you guys. I so appreciate the love and support. It means the world. You know, my original goal was to hit 100 followers by Halloween, and I think I hit like 72 this morning. So I'm totally on pace. I think we can do it. And so let's get there, guys. 100 followers, first milestone. Thank you to all of you again from the bottom of my heart that have already subscribed to my channel, or have already liked some of my posts, who have commented on things. I met already so many great people that I'm getting some cross-platform socializing. I'm loving it. Okay, some people that I've interacted with on YouTube and I've gotten a chance to know on YouTube, and now I'm going back and finding them on Instagram, where I have a larger platform and or rather a larger following over there, and like getting to know them in a different kind of lens, and it's fantastic, guys. It's so much fun, and this has really broadened my my scope and my perspective of people that are out there, people that are doing similar things to me, and just want to talk movies and talk horror. And so thank you, all of you. People are just have been so genuine and so nice. I'm just having a blast. So thank you guys for hanging out. Cheers, happy Sunday. I got my tea here. And if you have not already done so, please hit that like button. If you can subscribe to my channel, that'd be great. I'd so appreciate it. And yeah, so thank you guys. All right, keep rocking on. Today's video, okay, I was thinking I have a ton of topics ready to go. I have a ton of things that I want to do, and I actually ended up changing the topic for today. I was going to do something Vinegar Syndrome related and give you guys some a few backlog titles from Vinegar Syndrome that have not been spoken about a lot. Things from way back in the day that do not get enough love that I wanted to kind of showcase a little bit. And I started to think about underrated movies. And that video will come, and I'm going to show you guys my entire Vinegar Syndrome collection at some point. But I got to think about underrated movies. And I was thinking about one movie in particular that just really, like, exploded in my head. I'm like, this movie is not talked about enough. It is arguably right up there with, really, in my opinion, anything that's ever been made in terms of fun level. Okay? No, it's not the greatest movie ever made. You know, I have my top list, and, you know, it's Halloween, Killer Clowns, Scream. I have a very specific top 10 list that really hasn't changed much. The last time it changed was when Cabin in the Woods came out. That entered my top 10. That was the first movie in many years that altered that list. So no, it's not something that's altered my top 10 list, but it is a movie that I feel is incredibly underrated and is really in my wheelhouse in terms of what I love out of a movie. So, you know, it's not in my top 10, but I can see it if I were to make like a 10 to 20 list. I could see it sneaking in there. Okay, so and that's saying a lot. Again, top 20 all time. Again, I haven't made like a 10 to 20 list, but I do think it's up there, and I do think if I really thought about it, it would probably be in my 10 to 20 range. So yeah, in my opinion, arguably the most underrated horror film of all time, and that is Slither, okay? Directed by James Gunn. Now you can see this release came out August 1st, 2017. Okay, this was a Scream Factory release with the slip. There's a collector's edition. Really cool. Really cool artwork on there. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie, just look at that artwork, which is fantastic. And then if you open the Blu-ray case, you get the original artwork on there. It's on the actual disc also, which is kind of cool. You get the original artwork. That was the theatrical poster. Now, if you have seen Slither, you're probably sitting there thinking, he's 100% right. Because I know I am, because Slither is just, I don't care how many times I watch this movie, it is just a absolute blast. Every single time I sit down to watch it, I have so much fun with it. So a couple things about Slither. I'm going to keep it mostly spoiler-free. It's also a movie that was made in 2006, so I'm sure you have seen it. But if you haven't, I'm going to keep it mostly spoiler-free. Don't worry about me ruining anything for you. It's not going to happen. Anyway, so Slither came out in 2006. Okay, this was a very weird time for horror, no matter how you slice it. Okay, you had the big, the J-horror boom of the early 2000s with The Ring and The Grudge, and that was a big movement in horror, so it was a weird time for horror movies, and 2006 especially was a bizarre time. Okay, now I was born in 1986, so I was a sophomore in college when Slither came out. Now, I want you to listen to the movies that came out in 2006. Okay, also keep in mind, again, I mentioned it before, but it was directed by James Gunn. Okay, if that name does not ring a bell for you off the top of your head, James Gunn directed, not the Avengers, he directed, was it the Avengers? Why am I drawing a blank here? I think it was the Avengers. One of the big, superhero movies. I just want to double check my facts here. He directed Guardians. That's what it was. Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think he had something to do with Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. I don't know what, but he directed Guardians of the Galaxy. That's his big claim to fame. He also had something to do with... Oh, he also wrote... Here's a big one for you guys. He was one of the writers on the Dawn of the Dead remake, which, to be honest with you, is fantastic. One of the greatest remakes ever made. So Slither was directed by James Gunn. So it just gives you a little sense of the star power that was behind this movie. Okay, which you don't think about because it's a very, kind of lesser-known horror movie from a year that completely kind of bypassed horror. Okay, so it's a very niche movie that came out in a very niche year, but has some serious pedigree behind it. Okay, now as I mentioned, it came out in 2006. I was a sophomore in college. Okay. And I remember seeing the trailer for it. Me and a buddy of mine, whose name was Fonzie. Okay, his last name was Fondanarosa. For whatever reason, we called him Fonzie. And him and we saw the trailer and we're like, "Oh man, we got to see this." And I remember it came out, and I think we were up at school. I went to school upstate New York at SUNY Cortland, and I think it was like a break. Okay, I think we were like on break, and everyone was home, and it was just us two hanging out in our house, and we went like over a winter break. I think that's what it was, if I'm not mistaken. And we had a blast with it. It was like a morning matinee show, like 11 o'clock in the morning. This old rundown theater in Cortland, New York. And we loved it. We loved every second of it. Now, if you remember the trailer, you didn't really know what was going on. You saw like the little like bugs, the little like wormies slithering around all over the place. You saw the big I don't remember her name, Jenny maybe in the movie, when she gets all huge and big, and then, not gonna tell you what happens, but you saw her in the trailer with like a tiny head. She's like, "I'm so hungry, Bill," and you saw just all kinds of like body horror type stuff and alien takeover type stuff in the trailer, and you really didn't know what to expect, but it looked fun. It looked like a lot of fun, and again, that came out in a year of horror where these were the big movies that came out. Okay, listen to these movies that came out in 2006. Silent Hill, Hatchet, which again, Hatchet has its audience, and I very much enjoy Hatchet, but at the time it was very, very specific. Okay, it had a very specific audience that time. It was very indie. Now, with the way horror is and how popular horror is, it has a much bigger audience, and it's grown a very large audience. But at that point, it didn't. At that point, it was a very like weird movie. Okay, so Silent Hill, Hatchet. You had See No Evil, the Kane movie. You had The Hills Have Eyes, the remake. Okay, you had Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. You had What a Stranger Calls remake. The Host, which was a surprisingly great movie. That's like the one on this list that was surprisingly great. You had the Black Christmas remake. You had Saw 3, Final Destination 3. You had The Grudge 2. You had The Omen remake. You had I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, which is notoriously one of the worst sequels ever made, if not the worst. It is. I mean, like, I've watched it and I can have fun with it, but it's bad, guys. It's really bad. You had Full Moon did the Evil Bong movies along with the Ginger Dead Man. So those are okay, but again, Full Moon has really gained an audience over the years. It wasn't what it was in 2006. And then you had Snakes on a Plane, which is a very marketable, very high-end movie that did really well. And that was kind of the big movie, the big horror movie of the year, Snakes on a Plane. But the rest of those movies, for the most part, were remakes, sequels. There was very little in terms of fresh, original horror came out. And In Comes Slither by James Gunn that just flew over everyone's radar. Okay, this movie, I don't know how it did in the box office, but it was not something that was considered like a great movie. If I'm not mistaken, it bombed. I want to look it up right now. How did Slither do at the box office? Sure, why not? It was a box office failure, grossing only $12 million worldwide against a $15 million budget. So James Gunn's horror movie, Slither, actually lost $3 million at the box office. So, you're looking at a year where horror was just not hitting. Okay? A lot of remakes, a lot of sequels. So In Comes Slither, which is now a extremely fan favorite, cult favorite movie that bombed at the box office, but now has a huge following. So in that year, there was just nothing else. Okay, and it's a little surprising that you had this extremely inventive movie, and again, we're talking original, fresh, funny, scary, body horror. It really, to me, hits all the chords of what a great horror movie is. That totally bombed. Okay, timing is really important when it comes to horror movies. So yeah, so you have Slither that came out in 2006, and it bombed, guys. And there are some, if I were to compare it to a couple movies, I would say it's similar to The Faculty and The Blob, kind of like a love child of those two, which I love both of those. But, so it came out, and the trailer was just no one knew what to expect. And I saw it with my buddy Fonzie, and I loved it. It was a fantastic movie. If you have not seen it, basic premise of the movie is husband and wife, who, by the way, Michael Rooker and Elizabeth Banks. So this is one of Elizabeth Banks' first movies. No one knew who she was at that point, and she was fantastic in it. Michael Rooker went on to do all the Avengers movies and all that kind of good stuff. But you had a phenomenal cast. Okay, Nathan Fillion played the main guy in the movie. Greg Henry, who was fantastic in that movie. So you had a fantastic cast, and basically, it starts off, Michael Rooker and Elizabeth Banks are a married couple. They're having some issues, and Michael Rooker is having some fun outside of his house that doesn't involve Elizabeth Banks, and this meteor kind of strikes down, and he sees it in the woods, and he approaches it, and something slithers its way out, and so starts the movie. Now, there are so many incredible one-liners in this movie, so many incredible scenes in this movie that just strike the right chord as a horror fan. And above all else, there are some major homages to some other very famous movies. You have a lot of, zombie homages. You have some Dawn of the Dead homage in there, some Night of the Living Dead homage in there. You have a direct, a very direct scene, spoiler-free, where there's a woman in a bathtub, and it was in the trailer, I believe, too. And just like in Nightmare on Elm Street, when the claw comes up, and you kind of see it, like, rippling in the water towards Heather Langenkamp, they did almost like an exact scene for scene of that in Slither, where you see that one of the little, alien slugs pops up out of the water, and it's kind of like dangling its way over the water, and it's, oh my god, it's awesome. It's such a cool scene. Not only that, perhaps my favorite thing in this movie, okay, my absolute favorite thing, and one of the reasons why this movie holds such a special place in my heart, is because there's a scene when there are two little girls heading to bed, and this is definitely a James Gunn, approved scene. Two girls are going to bed, and their mom tucks them in to say goodnight, and says, okay, they're like, can we read a couple more pages, please, before we go to bed? And the mom says, okay, sure, yada yada. And yet the camera pans to the two little girls in bed. They're probably 8 or 9 years old. And what are they reading? None other than 2 Goosebump books. So, it's just, there's just so much here to love. The movie has so much heart, so much character. I don't want to spoil anything, give anything away, but if you have not seen Slither, I truly cannot recommend it enough. It is, to me, the most underrated horror film of all time. And if this is one of my top picks to get a special treatment hardbox release, limited content, this to me would be the unequivocal paramount of what movie I would want as a major release to come out, either as a 4K or as a Blu-ray. I think this movie would look fantastic in 4K. You can see the kind of the antagonist beast there with it's slithering and all its tentacles coming out. This thing would look sick in 4K. Okay, it's also got some Society vibes. Brian Usna, if you've seen Society, so I'd say it's like a cross between Society and The Faculty and The Blob. That would be my comparison. So if you're into that kind of vibe, you're gonna love this movie. I also think that there's nothing not to enjoy about this movie. Truly, it's so much fun. So definitely give Slither a shot, man. It's in my opinion the most underrated movie of all time. It is my top choice to get a big box treatment from Second Sight or Vinegar Syndrome. Dare I say? I wish it was someone else, not Scream Factory. Not that I dislike Scream Factory, but I prefer packaging, better packaging. So a flimsy slip is we'll have to do for now. But I'm sure Scream Factory is gonna do a 4K soon, and that'll just be that. But yeah. So most underrated movie of all time, I think Slither. I want to hear what you guys think. Okay, do you have any other opinions? Any other movies that you feel are criminally underrated that you want to throw out there? Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. The other thing is this. I got to thinking about what other movies I would want to get the big box treatment, to get a special release for, if it were to happen, right? So let's say, again, Slither is my top choice, right? If they put out a big box of this, a 4K collector's edition, hard box, new special features, new commentaries, new cuts of the film, interviews, all that stuff, top choice. Other movies that I'd want the same treatment for, okay, that are at the top of my wish list are these, okay? First, Jennifer's Body, okay? I would absolutely kill for a limited edition Jennifer's Body hard box from Second Sight or whoever. Arrow, whoever. Psycho Gorman, okay? I adore that movie, and I know there's a couple decent releases out there. I want a hardback book. I want essays. I want all of that for Psycho Gorman, because I love that movie. The movie that's playing behind me, Ernest Scared Stupid, which is responsible for so much of my love of horror, which is probably never going to happen. You see Trantor out back there. Which is probably never going to happen because it's owned by Warner Bros., I believe, which is owned by Disney. So the fact that they, the copyright on that is probably impossible to get. I'm also willing to bet they're I don't even know, who knows what they did with the original film elements for movies like this, because we're talking, these movies are 30 years old at this point, and physical media has never had a bigger presence, but who knew back then that this would be the case? So I'm willing to bet that the film elements would need some serious restoration wherever they are in the WB Disney vault, and I would love to see a company like Vinegar Syndrome get it. Just saying. I want an edition of The Last Dragon, Bruce Leroy. Okay, who's the master? Show enough. And then, lastly, I want a Phantasm 4K box. Those are my choices. Those movies I want to get a treatment. And that's it. All right, so thank you guys for hanging out. Please hit that like button. If you could subscribe to my channel, that would be sweet. Okay, that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for hanging out. Miles out. Peace.